Hello everyone, I'm starting a series on language, grammar, word types, word classes, and why it's important. As you can see, the question on the screen is, why is language important? And I feel like this is a fun topic. I know I'm a nerd, but it's a fun topic to discuss because without language, we would have very little forms of communication and clarity, as you can see on the screen. There was a time a couple years ago when my children and my husband were playing a game. I can't remember the name of it, but they were playing this game where they had to argue their points over which things they thought were most important, and they were given three choices. One was language, the greatest inventions, I should say. One was language, one was the wheel, and the last one was the discovery of fire. So, you have the development of language, the development of the wheel, or the discovery of fire. So several of them thought that language was most important, and one of them thought that fire was most important. They were having a very heated debate, and I walked in the middle of it, not really knowing all their sides and all their inner arguments and what was going on. But they asked me, and they expected me to say language, of course. Well, it was a cold night, and I was feeling the chill, and so I said, no, fire's most important, kind of as a joke. But it really was irksome to them, because they then couldn't believe it that I, of all people, would say that fire was a more important discovery or invention than language. Now, of course, thinking about it now in a nice warm room, I would say language is very important, perhaps most important to the development of human society and the way we function. Today, I want to specifically talk about a word class. We're going to go through in different videos talking about different word classes, and this first video will deal specifically with nouns. Nouns are a special group of word class that name a person, a place, or a thing, which a thing could be an animal, it could be a non-living object, it could be an idea or a feeling even. Thing is a very broad category. Now, the interesting thing about word classes that I should just point out is that when you have a word class, like noun, a word could fit into that, which sometimes will make it a noun if it's functioning in a sentence in the way that is a thing or a place or a person. However, the same word can be used in a different way, in a different function in the sentence, and could be a different word class. I'll give you an example. Let's take love. Okay, so that's a feeling, so it's a thing. Okay, and I could say love is wonderful. Love is fantastic. There, in that sentence, it's the subject of the sentence. It is a noun, love. When I switch the way I'm using that word and I move it in the sentence and I no longer treat it as the subject or the main idea, I can move it to become a verb. A verb is an action word, which we'll deal with next time. For instance, I could say, I love you, or I love peanut butter, which is true. Now, the subject is myself, I. The verb is love. Same word, different class of, different function, though. So this is where it can be tricky, because when we learn a word, we can't necessarily always memorize which word class it's in. It may fall into different classes depending upon how it's being used in a sentence. Let's move on. There are a class of nouns called concrete nouns. So if you think about the word concrete, you'll think it's a hard substance, it's rough, it's something you can touch and stand on. If you are talking about a noun, a thing, or a person or a place or whatever it is that you could touch or you could observe with your five senses, the sense of sight, smell, taste, touch, or hearing, then that would be a concrete noun, okay, something tangible. For example, let's see, I've got here my mug of tea. I have here a fridge magnet, also tangible, I can touch it. I have my fantastic Bluetooth headphone thingy-majig, headphone eye mask that was a gift to me. That's also tangible, I can touch it. All of these things are nouns that you can touch, they're concrete nouns. So if you take a moment and look around your room, you'll probably see many different concrete nouns, things you can touch. Now, the next class of nouns I want to talk about is the class, the group of abstract nouns. So we're still in the class of nouns, but this is the smaller group of abstract nouns, which fall into this idea of, ideas, thoughts, and feelings. These are non-tangible things, but they still exist. We know they're there. Things like fear, or courage, or a dream. Okay, so these are things that we know that they're there, they exist, but we cannot experience them with our five senses. They're not tangible, as in we can hold on to them. So those are called abstract nouns. Abstract, they cannot be touched. Now let's deal with plural nouns. So like I said, this video is not going to be completely in depth. I just wanted to deal with different types of nouns today. Now, when you're thinking about plural nouns, of course, these could be concrete or abstract. So now we're just dealing with the idea that you might have more than one of something. Plural, that's what it means. Two or more than one, basically. When you make a noun plural, usually you're just going to add an S to the end of the word. So for instance, I have my mug, and if I wanted to say I have two of them, I would say mugs, or 3 mugs, or a million mugs. You just add an S. Some of them are a bit trickier because you have to add an ES, and these are usually nouns that end with a harsh sound where we have to use our teeth at the end of the word to make the ch or the x sound. That's normally when we have to add the ES, like fox becomes foxes, or box becomes boxes. Now there are some other rules as well in plurals, and I'll deal with them in a later video. Sometimes the word has to change completely though, and this is where it becomes complicated. You do have to memorize a few of these. For example, mice is the plural of mouse. So the word mouse changes completely. You have the M at the beginning, but the other letters, except for the E at the end, change. So you have mouse changes to mice, or foot changes to feet, and there are many other examples. Maybe you can think of some and add them in the chat. The next part, the next group I want to talk about are singular nouns. So this is when you only have one of something, and perhaps I should have begun with this one, but I didn't. So when you have a singular noun, of course it's not going to be more than one, it's going to be one by itself. And one thing to comment on this, which we'll deal with another time, is that before a noun, you will have other words, like articles, for example, a, an, and the. So for instance, we could say we have a computer, or the computer. We have a book, or the book. We see a unicorn, or we see the unicorn. So again, when you have a singular noun, you will sometimes distinguish between having one that's specific, like the unicorn, or the computer, or one that is more general, generic, a computer, an apple. Okay, we'll deal with those articles another time again, but I just wanted to bring that up as we're dealing with singular nouns here. The next idea I want to talk about is the collective idea, the collective noun group. This is when a group of something is being treated as a whole altogether. And there are special words for these types of groups that we use all the time. For instance, a bunch of flowers. That bunch is a collective. There are many flowers in the bunch, but it's being treated as one thing. Okay, I could say, you brought me a bunch of flowers. Oh, how sweet. Or I could say, you brought me 2 bunches of flowers. So that would be classified as 2 groups, right? 2 bunches. And with animals, there are many special words for these groups, like a herd of elephants, I think. You can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Or a murder of crows, or a gaggle of geese. And there are many more. Again, add them in the comments to tell me other collective words that you know for noun groups. Especially animals, there are many. That's all for today's video, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!